Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel for the first time. So since Limb-girdle muscular dystrophy awareness day is tomorrow in my time zone, I'm going to record one more video in honor of the special occasion, even though I posted the last one just a couple of years ago. And that's going to be about the nomenclature, i.e. What the way that different genetic types of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy are named. So imagine that you're in the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and that you're asking the knights who say "ni" about what type of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy you have, or a loved one has. And they'll say, well, there's only one small problem. You no longer have LGMD2B. You now have LGMD-R2 dysferlin related. Okay, so what the heck does that mean? I will explain. Okay, so in 1994, back when the genome was pretty close to being sequenced and people were starting to discover what genes cause limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. And from the very beginning, it was clear that there were multiple genes that cause LGMD. There was a meeting sponsored by the European Neuromuscular Center, ENMC, which arrived at a naming convention, i.e. nomenclature for LGMDs. And so what that said was that each genetic subtype of LGMD would have a letter and a number. So the number would indicate the inheritance pattern. One meant a dominant inheritance, which means that you only need one copy of a mutation in order to have the disease. And a 2 meant a recessive inheritance, which means that you need a mutation on both copies of the gene in order to have the disease. That means one you inherited from each parent. And then with each inheritance pattern, there's a letter assigned to each particular gene that's shown to be responsible for LGMD based on the order of discovery. Okay, so for example, LGMD2A is the subtype of LGMD with a recessive inheritance, i.e. 2, and that was the first one discovered, so therefore it has an A. And it turns out that's caused by mutations in the calpain gene. Okay, now in 1994, no one ever imagined that there were going to be more than 26 different genes that could cause LGMD. But by 2017, for the recessive types of LGMD, you had gone through the entire alphabet. You'd gone through LGMD2Z. Okay, well, now we have a problem. So are we going to call the next recessive subtype LGMD2AA, which would normally be the convention, but that wouldn't have anything to do at all with LGMD2A. And among the medical community, no one really liked that. Also, LGMD2A doesn't tell you, tell you, unless you just memorize it, that it has to do with the calpain 3 gene. So you have to memorize all of the individual subtypes, which just because I'm kind of a nerd, I actually did, at least up to a point. At some point, I just sort of like, yeah, this is I'm kind of lost interest in this. But you know, it was kind of a pain to keep track of all of this. So in 2017, there was a meeting which actually one of my coworkers attended, and they came up with a new naming system. So the new naming system is that each subtype is designated by a letter, D or R, indicating dominant or recessive inheritance. And then after that, it's given a number rather than a letter, indicating which gene is responsible in the order of discovery. Okay, so, you know, unlike letters, you're never going to run out of numbers, so you can just keep going. So it doesn't matter if we discover 175 genes that can cause LGMD. It's not really a problem. And then at the end, the name indicates which protein is affected in the particular genetic subtype. So in the old convention, LGMD2A now becomes LGMD-R1. So it's a recessive, and it's the first one discovered, and now it contains calpain 3 related, so you know what protein is involved. I will acknowledge that there are some mutations in calpain 3 that actually can cause LGMD with dominant inheritance. Okay, so then a few other changes were made. There were some diseases that were given an LGMD number, but you know, in the more recent conference that decided what the criteria were for actually calling something an LGMD, they decided to exclude from the category of LGMDs. However, it is worth noting that there's a lot of overlap between LGMDs and other forms of muscle diseases that can cause very similar symptoms. So depending on the person and depending on the clinician who's trying to diagnose them, someone can have something that looks very much like an LGMD in terms of the symptoms or phenotype, but it isn't technically considered an LGMD. But that still means that you should test those genes on a panel to see whether those genes can be responsible. So several of these are in the autosomal dominant types, LGMD 1A, 1B, 1C, and then a few other types are now classified as other non-LGMD muscle diseases. Okay, there's a few diseases that were added to LGMDs. The most noteworthy of this was called collagen 6 myopathy, which is clinically referred to as either Bethlehem or Ulrich myopathy. And it can actually have either dominant or recessive inheritance. So it's now called D4 if it has dominant inheritance and R22 if it has recessive inheritance. Before, it wasn't officially included as an LGMD, but now it is. And then there's a couple other types that are now lumped in with LGMDs. Okay, so in summary, with the new classification, there's now 5 dominant and 24 recessive types of LGMD. The number went down a little bit, but there's still close to 30, and it's pretty clear that in future years there's going to be additional genes that are discovered that are responsible for LGMD. So tomorrow, September 30th, is LGMD Awareness Day. I'll acknowledge this isn't a particularly entertaining video, but I kind of wanted to put this out there as reference material so that all of you who are interested can understand the genetic variants of LGMDs, and kind of understand if you see a particular designation of the genetic type of LGMD, that you'll understand what that means in either the old or the new system. So thank you all, and hope things are going well for you.